Amy, who else are we waiting on?
I don't know that we're waiting on anyone. Are we
I think let's go ahead.
ready to go? Okay. Agenda. Sorry. We just want to take a quick moment of silence.
Sure.
Okay, so today we will look at, police and fire will both report out all their new program requests for 2025. We'll look at July monthly reports, just an update on where we are in the budget process, and that should be it. Mayor, did you want to say anything else? Sorry, I just kind of jumped in there.
No, please do. I think I'm assuming these have been circulated in advance.
They have.
Okay.
Chief, do you want me to share the new program request on the screen? Would that help?
Yes, I think so. Tell her on mute, Chief.
Ms. Stain, are you able to hear us?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
We have a little PowerPoint we're going to put up for you. Is that okay, Ms. Amy?
Absolutely. Did I just leave the meeting? Good. Okay. I left the meeting. Sorry, everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, so for 2025, the Charleston Police Department has 3 new program requests. The first is a mounted horse patrol unit expansion. The second is the elder victim advocate position. And the third is the DNA laboratory expansion from year 4 to 5. The first one that we're going to discuss is a mounted horse patrol expansion. The initial cost that we are estimating is approximately $214,000 and $154. And this is going to include to have actually 4 horses that are going to be cared for at stables. This will include for them to be tended to in terms of minor health care issues such as dental cleaning and horseshoe cleaning and fittings. It will also take care of the grooming. It also encompasses their feeding and some other ancillary costs that we built in there. And one of the other things that this covers is the pickup collection of their waste throughout the city for all 4 horses. So this is, like I said, will cover everything with the mounted horse patrol. In addition to this, as we talked about, the horse patrol unit, it performs a preventive and responsive patrol and crime interdictions that our patrol does. It conducts area security and is a crime deterrent. Once again, they're from an elevated position. They're able to see easier when they're on their horse, especially on King Street during the day and at nighttime. They facilitate numerous community outreach initiatives. As you know, when you see the horse, there's always people around them. Holmes and Watson are very photogenic. They enjoy people. They're not skittish of them. So they do have the community outreach initiative. And they also support our special operations division. And should we need them in a crowd control setting, they are trained to do that as well. Are there any questions in reference to the expansion of this program?
Captain, did you say that you had a PowerPoint you wanted to share?
Is this not sharing for some reason?
No, sir. No, sir. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were doing so great.
All right, hang on. Let me see why it's not able to share.
If you can't, you could send it to me, Captain, and I can put it up. Just let me know.
All right, here we go. Are you guys able to see that now?
Yep, got it.
All right, my apologies on that. So are there any other questions besides the PowerPoint on my part that we didn't address for the horse patrol unit and the expansion of it? Yes, Councilman Waring.
Yes, the stables. Are we gonna reactivate the stables that used to be along Hampton Park? What's the thinking on that?
The plan right now is, we've already been up there, looked at it, and there needs to be fencing replaced. And so we've already requested to try to have that done this year so the horses can get up to Hampton Park and that can be used, as well as that building at least being in a position that they can take a break there. The long-term plan for next year with the facilities is we have a proposal in to redo that the stables up there, to make a meeting room, to also have an area for the officers to write reports. And then they want to also have it set up there to where it's going to have a full probably demo to honestly get it back where it needs to be.
Right.
But we're going to set it up to be prepared. We're talking long-term down the road to get back to having 6 or 8 horses in the mounted patrol unit, and then getting back to the point of having our own groomers who would pick up the waste and removing those fees and the grooming fees we're having to pay for right now. So that is a plan. We also have a plan to get them a new vehicle as well as a new trailer, which would then enable them to be able to take the horses to West Ashley, to like the Greenway, and to other areas of the city where they would be able to ride and things like that, coming up on our vehicle budget for this year.
All right, good. I always thought it was, because it's pretty much been empty since we left with the previous patrol, right?
Yes, sir. And I know there was something for a little bit where I think a restaurant was looking at moving in there and refurbishing it, but I don't know if the cost was too much or what, but we're at least looking to get it set up to where they can get up there and have a place to stop and do community interaction and be in Hampton Park again.
I think the Park Conservancy one time.
Yeah,
claimed it.
Councilman Waring, the Parks Conservancy had a lease on it for several years, and they, through a mutual agreement, agreed not to continue leasing it because they don't have the capacity or resources to deal with it. So
Great idea. I'm glad we got it back then.
yeah, we definitely got it back this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the specific initiative?
Councilman Seekins has his hand up.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. First off, the horse patrol being back is fantastic. I mean, what you say is true. When they're out there, people are paying attention. It really is a crowd pleaser, and it gives people a lot of confidence in what's going out there on the street. So love the program being back. Is the estimated cost of $214 in addition to already housing and operating Holmes and Watson, or is that the total cost for all 4 horses?
That'd be the total cost for all 4 horses.
Okay.
And just, I guess, for educational purposes, right now we have Holmes and Watson. Our Police Foundation Lens has made a generous donation for another horse, and then we put a horse in the budget for 2026 coming up. So we're anticipating of getting the 4 horses.
Great.
I do have one last question. This may be a question for Amy, though, but wasn't the CVB kind of interested in putting up? I thought they were interested in putting up some money to help bring this back. Did they ever come forward with any money, Ms. Wharton?
So they were for a couple of years, but this year, Captain, that's correct, right? It was just 2024 where we took on all of those expenses. So they're no longer participating in that.
Okay, thank you. When they did participate, how much did they contribute?
So they got the horses and they were taking care of all of the expenses for, it was at 1 year, Captain, Chief? I just can't remember exactly if it was for the 1 year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Boyd?
Thank you, sir. I guess this question is for Ms. Wharton. Given that last answer, can we use ATAX revenue for this, since these horses are, I mean, a lot of them are being patrolled in tourist areas and for events and things of that nature?
Yes, we can use tourism dollars for this.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have any other questions? It's hard to see from our screen. All right, the next initiative that I spoke about briefly is a new position for the Elder Victim Advocate. This position is roughly $84,000 and $84,006. And this victim is the liaison to, when they become a victim of a crime, how does the police department help and support the elderly community? As you know, Charleston is a growing community. Initially, we did have this position, it went away, but we want to bring it back. What they do is they make great referrals to our social services out there, If there's any issues with the conservator or guardianship court hearings, the elder victim advocate would attend that. They also have a discharge plan should the victim become in the hospital for whatever reason. And the last one is a big feather in our hat, is they represent not only the Charleston Police Department, but the city of Charleston on a local and state level when they do give presentations, not only within our community, but at the state level, whether it's through educational reasons or for other reasons to interact with state legislators and representatives on terms of elder care, elder abuse, and how do we help that community out. Any questions on this specific initiative? All right. Hearing none, we're gonna go to our last one.
Well, the only thing from, and just so everybody knows, we did have this position. They changed the grant at the state level for this position to where they're trying to get new positions for departments that never had it, and so they cut the funding, and that's why we had to absorb this, and no longer is the grant available to us. And the last thing that we have on here is for our DNA laboratory that's already been in the works year 4 and 5. This past year, we hired the second DNA analyst, which is what is required because it has to have basically 2-step authentication for any DNA that's done there. So we have all the individuals there to get it working. Right now, with the training that they've been undergoing over at the DNA lab, they should be ready to be fully certified in early January of this year, possibly December of this year, to where we will have a functional DNA lab. So years 4 and 5 are the basically the cost involved in that, since we have all the equipment and things, is going to be for all the items that are used to submit the DNA and process the DNA. A big thing for this is by having our own DNA lab, we no longer have to wait in line up at the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. We no longer have to pay outside entities such as Richland County or Beaufort County to utilize their DNA lab. I know there was talk, of years of working with Charleston County, but Charleston County has decided to try to start their own DNA lab, which they still haven't even broken ground on theirs yet. We will work with outside entities where needed. We'll work with the coroner's office and things. But to start out, it'll be looking at our cases, looking at cold cases that have not been solved as of yet. And then we will be able to handle property crimes, which are not handled by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. They won't take them just because of how many cases they have to handle. And then the big benefit is after this year 4 and then next year 5, once we have a functional DNA laboratory and we pass our certification, there are tons of grants available that'll basically start funding this going forward once we show that we have it up and off the ground. So this is the last piece. All the equipment is there. All the employees are in place. All the protocols are in place, and they're actually starting the testing now. And this will be the final piece going into next year where we can actually say we have our own DNA lab and start processing our own DNA, which gives a much faster turnaround. I'll be honest, there are DNA samples that are probably still sitting up at SLED for months and years, and this will give us a turnaround to provide justice to victims much quicker and get resolutions to cases. Are there any questions about that?
All right, so that's all the police department has for new initiatives or budget request initiatives for 2025. Miss Amy, is there anything else you'd like us to speak on?
No, Catherine, thank you. If anybody has any questions for you all.
All right.
Pretty thorough, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so now we have fire department. And you all have a PowerPoint you want to present?
We do, thank you.
With my building on there?
What's that?
With my building on there?
Is that your building?
Isn't
That's
it?
Amy's building.
Yeah.
No. So can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, one, thank you for allowing us to present the budget today. In the fire department, we've identified a couple of different priorities that we're trying to hit on in the budget requests. One is infrastructure and obviously facilities, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. That's a big one for us, but also our personnel and making sure that our personnel are developed, make sure that the department is growing at a healthy pace and in the right areas and, are developed. Also in community risk reduction, we want to make sure that we are in the community, that we're partnering with the community to make sure we have positive outcomes outside the emergency. And then, of course, professional development for our team. To do that, we are focusing on our mission and our vision. The mission for the fire department is excellent people providing exceptional service. And the vision is to create a safer Charleston. And I always like to point out the fact that in those two statements, there's no mention of fire. Fire is just what we do, but our focus is to bring good people into the organization, to foster them, to develop them so that they'll provide that great service. And then if we do that, Charleston is safer today than it was yesterday, and Charleston will be safer tomorrow than it is today. So to do that, we have 18 budget requests. And again, this is encompassing the entire fire department, which is 8 different divisions that are varied. It's everything from the fire trucks on the road to the emergency management division, which just came into the department earlier this year. So the number one request for the fire department is to implement a suicide, cancer, and cardiovascular prevention program. What we know is that the largest killers of firefighters in the country are related to cardiovascular events, mental issues to include suicide, and cancer. There's a growing research that shows that even the gear that firefighters are wearing contain cancer-causing agents. So there's probably not another group of workers in the city that are exposed to these types of hazards. So what we would like to do is we would like to implement body scans for the operations firefighters. We'd like to do 1/3 of the department every year that will detect cancer at a quicker rate. We would like to purchase gross decon equipment so that we can get these carcinogens off our firefighters before they ever get in the apparatus to come back to the station after a fire. We would like to partner with a clinician for the department, and that would focus on mental screening. And with that, every firefighter in the department would go and sit down with a clinician at least one time a year to talk through any issues that are arising. We'd like to increase our cardiovascular screening during our physicals. We would like to continue with a Peer Connect app that we've got. It's a mental health app for first responders. We currently have a grant for that, and we'd like to go ahead and normalize that as a part of the fire department so that people outside the normal processes of the fire department can get on an app if they're having a hard time dealing with a call they just went on overnight, and they can talk to a clinician right then in the privacy of their own home. We'd like to go ahead and normalize that. And then we would also like to move the annual physicals that we have for our firefighters to an off-duty program. We'd like to go ahead and pay them some overtime to go ahead and get their physicals done while they're off duty, and that would keep our fire apparatus in service at a much higher rate. And if anybody has any questions, please just stop me, and I'm having a hard time seeing the screen, but if somebody says something, Councilmember Parker?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thanks, Chief. So will these are great resources, obviously, for our firefighters, but will these be required, like per, kind of your HR requirements that they see a mental health professional or get body scans? Like, are these required, or are these just going to be resources?
No, these would be, well, it would be a combination. So the Peer Connect app would be a resource for the team members, but something like the increased cardiovascular screening, the sitting down with a mental health professional one time a year, those would be requirements, very much like we do annual physicals for our firefighters.
Okay. Okay, understood. I'm just curious what the response on something like that is from our employees. Do you know? Have you gotten a
I
good
don't know.
read?
I don't know what it would be from our employees, but this would move us to what is the norm for fire departments in the country.
Okay.
And I know if I base off what local fire departments are doing and use their responses, it would be a positive.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. The second request is to move the fire marshals into the fire department pay plan. This would be the third year that we've requested this. The fire marshals are sworn firefighters. They are qualified at the state level to function as firefighters. They are in the same retirement system as police and firefighters, but they are not in the fire department pay plan. So my hope is that in conjunction with whatever pay study is coming and any pay movement for city employees, that we would go ahead and accomplish the movement of fire marshals into the fire department pay plan. The third request is to add firefighters that would staff engine 122, and that would be a unit that is going into Cainhoy. That would enable us to protect that area of the city better. Currently, we have 2 units in the Cainhoy area. That's we actually have 3 units in that area. We have 10 firefighters per day in that section of the city. But if you have been in that section of the city, you understand the incredible challenges that our firefighters have protecting that community with the large houses off the street, the apartment complexes. So this would put 1 additional unit in that area of the city. Initially, we wouldn't have a firehouse to put them in, but we're working to make sure that that firehouse gets built in the near future. But we would house them with other units until the firehouse is built. And that would be for 15 firefighters, 5 per day. And the staffing would, the monetary amount would be for a July 1 start date. So if we could hire and put these firefighters in the fire academy, July 1st, 2025, we would have them ready to staff a unit in January or February of 2026. With the growth in the department, we do see that we need more instructors in the training division. The state specifies certain ratios of instructors to students that we have to adhere to. The department has grown over the last couple of years. Maintaining those ratios becomes tougher. And what we end up doing is relying on overtime and using people from the operations division of the fire department to bolster the training division. We'd like to go ahead and add 2 staff instructor positions to the training division to ease that workload, or to be able to manage that workload. We'd also like to reinstate division chiefs in the fire department. This was a rank that was held several years ago before my time in the Charleston Fire Department, but this is a level above the battalion chief rank and below the assistant chief rank. And it's a level that would be responsible for the coordination of activity across an entire shift in the fire department. We feel that putting that position back in place would aid in the efficiency of the department and would also provide us the opportunity to have all 449 people getting on the same page as far as how the department is progressing, the priorities, the training, and that type of thing. We'd like to add a coordinator position for our special operations division. Currently, the department has 10 special operations units. That's everything from hazardous materials to urban search and rescue to the marine units that we have on the water. With 10 units trying to coordinate the training, trying to coordinate the certifications, trying to coordinate the daily activities, of those 10 units can be quite challenging. So we'd like to go ahead and move somebody into special operations and have that person specialize on that task. We'd like to expand our fleet services area by 2 positions. That would put us in line with city fleet and the police department. And in the addition of 2 FTEs would put us just below industry standard for the fleet that the fire department has. I would point out that I believe we have about $270,000 budgeted every year for fleet maintenance. This year, we are estimated to spend maybe $800,000 or $840,000 in fleet maintenance. And that's a combination of apparatus just breaking down, apparatus going through flood waters, and then having to have repairs made, accidents that we incur. But the workload has gone up incredibly for the staff in our shop. So adding a couple of extra positions would help us keep these fire apparatus on the road. It's also worth noting that since COVID, the delivery time of new apparatus has really lengthened. So right now, we are looking at about 40 months, 40 months to get a fire engine from the time we order it from the time we take delivery of it. For a ladder truck, it's at 48 months. So it becomes critical that we be able to keep these fire apparatus on the road and in a functioning manner. We'd like to shift our administrative coordinator position to an HR coordinator position. To accomplish that, it would just be a small amount of money, but currently the person in the position is fulfilling all the requirements of the higher position. That would involve us moving this from a grade 10 to a grade 12. We would also like to improve the pay for the emergency management specialists in the emergency management division that's been added to the fire department. They're currently at grade 12. We would like to move them to grade 13. That would make us more competitive with area municipalities and also counties. We'd like to put a GIS analyst in the planning division. That analyst would work with our current data integration manager and our current data analyst. They would focus on strategic planning, the ISO rating that the city has, and our accreditation initiatives. Would also enable us to take data that we are generating from our new records management system that's been implemented and map that information out so that our intervention strategies across the city will be focused in the right areas. We'd like to add a medical quality assurance officer. Half of the calls that the fire department goes to in a given day are medical in nature. So we'd like to put a position in place that would focus on the departmental compliance with protocols that are already in place, and also to focus on the report narratives, medication dosages, and that type of thing. I'll take number 12 and number 15 together. They're both community risk reduction requests from the fire marshal's office. Each request is 3 people. In 2022, we presented a staffing plan to BFRC to bolster the fire marshal's office and to establish community risk reduction teams that would be able to be in the community, assisting the community prior to any emergencies. So that's actually being in the streets and engaging in fire prevention and fire education activities, but it's also having assistant fire marshals available to work through permitting issues. We'd like to put 1 person in the permit center as part of this initiative. We would like to have a couple of people dedicated to an education unit, somebody focusing on hazmat permits, And again, this is request number 12 and request number 15. If we could accomplish both of those, that would put us back on track with the plan that we presented in 2022. Request number 13 is an equipment build out for the emergency management division. Again, this division came into the fire department, I believe it was in March of this year, and very quickly the department had to mobilize and make sure that the prominent flooding issues that we experience are addressed appropriately from a city standpoint. I think we've done that. I think we've done that pretty well. Our new emergency manager is starting today. We have an emergency management specialist starting today. So we've got a team of 3 people in that division now, but they are lacking some equipment. They don't have vehicles assigned to them, so they can't get out and respond to issues as they're popping up. And with some of these flooding issues, you know that from there being a sunny day to being a rain bomb in downtown can happen in just a matter of minutes. So we'd like to go ahead and get equipment to better prepare this team for response.
Steve, if I could interrupt, it looks like Councilman Parker has a hand.
Yes, Councilmember Parker?
No, I don't. I'm sorry if I do.
Oh,
It's okay.
okay.
Sorry. One question I have though, with regards to emergency management. This is for clarity, in addition to the current emergency management budget that was part of 2024 that you had assumed, correct?
Yes.
Or is this new and would net out?
This is new. So just jumping ahead a little bit, if you look at request number 13, equipment for the emergency management division, and then number 17, which is 2 additional emergency management specialists. Those are 2025 requests, not contained in any of the requests that we made in 2024. So we have 1 vacancy in the emergency management division right now, 1 emergency management specialist. We'll get that filled. That will give us a team of 4. We're requesting 2 additional positions next year to give them a team of 6, and then equipment to support their mission.
Got it. Just wanted a clarification there.
Yes, sir. Request 14 is incentive pay for members of the Special Operations Division. As I said before, we have 10 teams in the city of Charleston. And just to reiterate, that's everything from hazardous materials to urban search and rescue to the Marine team to the Thames team that responds to active shooter incidents, incident management teams. But in years past, before I came to Charleston, the members of the special operations teams received a 5% incentive to function on these teams. Currently, there is no member of the special operations division that receives any incentive to do any work above what is required of a basic firefighter. So for example, the personnel that are on our hazardous materials team, they are there because they enjoy the work of hazardous materials and because they see the value in creating a safer community. But they could request to come off the team at any point in time and return to the duties of a normal firefighter. And we see that, we're seeing that. So I'd like to go ahead and incentivize the members of the division. And that's not an incentive that they get every single day. It's an incentive that they would get for every day that we use their skills. So if a firefighter comes in and we are using him on the hazardous materials team today, we'd like for him to get a 5% incentive today. The next time that firefighter comes to work, if he's not on the hazardous materials team, then he wouldn't get it, would not get that incentive. I already talked about request number 15. Request number 16 is to upgrade some positions on a unit in the Canehoy area of the city. We have a couple of units that aren't traditional fire trucks, and they're only staffed with 2 people. One of these units has a supervisor and a driver. And this unit that is listed in request number 16 does not have a supervisor and a driver. They have a driver and a firefighter. So we would like to go ahead and match the 2 units and make sure that each unit has a supervisor and a driver on those units. I already talked about request number 17, and request number 18 is additional funding for leadership development. The city has been very generous over the last couple of years and has allocated funding for leadership development of the chief officer ranks of the fire department. That's 27 people out of our 449 positions. And I can say over the last 2 years, the payoff to that leadership journey has been astounding. And what I would like to do is have additional funding that we could then roll these leadership development programs down to our first level supervisors. One, I think it would increase the strength of the fire department in general. I think it would reduce our discipline issues that arise. It would prepare our team for future formal leadership opportunities, and it would create a more cohesive group among the department. Outside those 18 budget requests, and I appreciate everybody listening to us for those, I want to make sure I hit on a couple of things. With the city budget process, when we see that there are facilities requests that need to be made, they are not made from the fire department to BFRC. We funnel those over to facilities and capital projects. So I wanted to make sure everybody knows that for 2025, we have a request to renovate Station 10 on Nicholson Drive in West Ashley. That request is for $650,000. We do have a request for drawings for an eventual renovation of Station 15 on Cumming Street. And we have a request for $1.2 million to renovate Station 18. That is on Daniel Island. That request was made last year. It was not funded. It's up again this year. But then holistically, I do want everybody to know that we're working hand in hand with the mayor's office to make sure that we approach our renovations and our new facilities as quickly and as completely as possible. I think it's fair to say, and I know Mayor Cogswell will probably chime in on this, but it's fair to say from the first time Mayor Cogswell and I met, the focus of conversations largely has been facilities. And how can we make sure that we are putting our firefighters in the best facilities that we can? So in addition to these 3 station projects that you see listed, we are working on a much larger picture with that. Mayor, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
I think it sums it up nicely. I mean, we need to make sure we have the coverage. City's obviously growing, and we want to be ahead of this, not behind. Every time we're behind, it costs a lot more. And that has to do with new construction, obviously, and expanding our footprint, but also addressing existing facilities. And, you know, the reality of it is we have some issues, some serious issues with existing facilities. So not going to be a inexpensive solution, but obviously pretty critical and important to public safety.
Yes. Councilmember Appel, you have a question?
Thank you, Chief Curria. I just had some questions about Fire Station 10 and this pretty significant renovation. I just wanted to get some more info from you, maybe at a very high level, about what that entails, that 650 figure. What are we getting?
We would get a complete renovation of the firehouse. Earlier this year, we had a tile break in the captain's bedroom, or in one of the bedrooms of the firehouse, and the tile contained asbestos. We had to vacate the firehouse, which we certainly don't want to put our firefighters in any situation that is unsafe for them. We don't want to keep them in that type of situation. So we quickly shut the firehouse down, Part of this funding is to deal with the issues that we know we're going to see. We know we're going to have some asbestos abatement, but this also is going to involve a complete gutting of the fire station and new flooring, some reconfigured bedroom areas, new kitchen cabinets, new appliances, just I hesitate to use the word facelift for $650,000, but it's a renovation that would set us up for the next 20-25 years in that facility.
Well, that sounds wonderful. This is a fire station that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts over in District 11. And I remember when the station was closed temporarily for this issue you were mentioning, and people were just so bummed out about it. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And they were thrilled. They thought the fire station was closing for good. And they were just so thrilled to see it reopen. And now for it to be getting a facelift, I think they're going to be over the moon. So thank you so much, Chief, and your team for prioritizing this station amongst the rest of the fleet, so to speak here. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Shealy?
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Appreciate all of this. Just wanted to ask about Station 16, Ashley Hall Plantation Road, and if there's any plans, and I guess I kind of thought we might see something on here, but just wanted to check on that.
So it's my understanding that we have the replacement land for Station 16. That lot, the current lot, is so small that we can't do anything with it. So we had identified, and I may have to rely on Amy to chime in as to whether the purchase has been completed, but we do have land for a replacement Station 16, and we will slot that into the capital improvement plan for replacement. Amy, did you have any additional?
Sorry, I was having trouble becoming unmuted. That's the station we're working through Air's property on that. So I will get you an update on that, Councilmember Shealy.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Gregg?
Thank you, Chief. Just a couple quick questions. One, so for Station 20, obviously we're working on design for Station 20 right now. Is that fully funded, or, I mean, I gather because it's not in the budget, where that any future expenditures for Fire Station 20, which would, I guess, include OpEx and CapEx, or are they funded in upcoming budgets?
Councilmember Gregg, that is included in the capital improvement plan and wouldn't be included in the operating budget. Station 18, that will also go to the capital improvement plan. It wouldn't be in the operating budget. So 20 is in the capital improvement plan and is funded.
Okay, so then I guess forgive me here, but so it looks, we're purchasing this new apparatus for Station 20 and staffing it, or Station 22, I'm sorry. And that station's not built yet. So I guess my question is, it seems like to me that Station 20 is further along in acquiring land and building the facility, but we're moving ahead with purchasing equipment for 22, which to my knowledge, we don't have land or design or a facility plan yet. So I guess, can you just explain why we're purchasing this equipment for 22, which doesn't exist yet?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So in the fire department, we operate with this concept called effective response force. And what that basically means is, for the different hazards that we see in a community, we as an industry figure out how many firefighters we need to handle the problem, but we also have to figure out how quickly do we need those firefighters to arrive on scene. And we break that down in two different areas. How quickly do we need the first unit to get there? And then how quickly do we need the balance of the effective response force to get there? So in the Cainhoy area, the effective response force for many of those structures that we find out there is about 23 to 25 people. And currently, with the resources that we've got on Cainhoy, there are 10 firefighters per day. And then we have 9 more firefighters on Daniel Island. So if I take that entire section of the city and I devote them to an issue in the Cane-Hoy area, I can amass 19 firefighters pretty quickly, but it's not hitting that 23 mark that I need. Now, we also have a robust automatic aid agreement, and that involves the North Charleston Fire Department and also the Mount Pleasant Fire Department. So we've got resources coming from other areas, but another thing we do in the fire service is we look at that first call, those 23 people that I need to handle, say, an apartment fire in, excuse me, in Cane-Hoy. But then we also have to factor in, what about the fire protection for the remainder of the community while we're handling that emergency? And what if there's a second call that comes in? So that's why we're trying to go ahead and bolster the number of firefighters we have in that area of the city. And what I will do is I will work to put those firefighters in a city facility, in a city firehouse. Well, I'll be cramming, people into a firehouse, but it will bring our numbers in that area of the city up to where they need to be to start handling the issues that we expect to find. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then I guess I mean, fire, and I misspoke earlier to say fire station 20 hasn't been built yet, because we have an existing fire station 20. It's just in really bad shape, as we all know.
Yeah.
And we need to replace it. So it doesn't sound like you anticipate any increase in staffing or apparatus for the new fire station 20.
When the new fire station 20 comes online, we will close down the existing. We will shift those 4 firefighters over to the new facility. And then, at that point in time, we could take the proposed engine 122 that I just spoke of, and we could put them in there at station 20.
Okay.
But the eventual build out is 4 firefighters on engine 120, which we already have. And then we were going to shift the battalion chief from Daniel Island over to Cane-Hoy to even out that response district. So there should be 5 people there.
And that'll free up some room on 18, I guess, when you do that, right?
Yes, just a little bit. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. The last couple of things I want to make sure I point out, we passed budget requests over to information technology. We are asking for something called first arriving software. It would enable us to put computer monitors or televisions up in every fire station of the city, and then have standardized messaging that goes to each device. So we could put out training bulletins. We could put out the daily activity schedule. We could make sure that response times are shared across the city, so we know how quickly we're getting out of the stations, and we know how quickly we're amassing that effective response force that I already spoke of. Just trying to create a common operational picture for the entire fire department. Councilmember Waring, do you have a question?
I do, but I think it's more for Amy. I follow everything you're saying here, Chief. Ms. Morton, are we gonna bond any of this public safety building and everything? I'm probably jumping ahead of the capital improvement budget, but what's
the renovations, no, we would not bond for. Any new stations that we build, we would bond for.
Okay. Is that something we anticipating in 25 or 26, or when will the bonding?
So we already have a bond for 23 Johns Island.
Right.
And 22. And part of 20 of 20, the new station for 20 as well. So until we identify and start building more, then we would bond then.
Okay.
And we might have to, with some of these renovations, as we're getting through all of them, we might have to include that in the next bond that we do, because there'll be a larger dollar amount.
Yeah, one because like it's station 18, so we're gonna be able to do that out of normal general funds.
We probably, yes, that one, we already have some money put aside because we had, for 24, had put money there just for engineering and design. So we've
Mhm.
already funded that, a little bit of that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So just to finish up, we are proposing to put security cameras at the fire stations, and that would be a phased-in project. And then also next gen, which is the security access. It's the keypads that we use to get into facilities. And those are used throughout the city, not just the fire department. We would like to phase those in also over the next several years. The last thing I wanted to point out is the different apparatus that we are requesting. And again, the delivery time for a fire engine right now is pushing 3.5 years. And the delivery time for a ladder truck is it's right at 4 years right now. And I say that to then lead to, we can look at the state of our fleet now. We can see that when we're talking about Station 22 in Cane Hoy. If we wait until we break ground on the station, we won't have the apparatus. That's why we want to go ahead and get those ordered. They're not going to come in for several years. But then also, if you look down the very last bullet point, we have requested funding to purchase some used fire apparatus, a used engine and a used ladder. My fear is that with COVID creating these long delivery times for apparatus, if we go another 2 years, 2.5 years, and we're not getting new apparatus in at the pace to which we're accustomed, we will actually end up with a huge spike in either repairs for our current apparatus or just apparatus out of service because of parts issues. Every fire department in the country is going to experience this. What I want for the Charleston Fire Department is for us to be ahead of the curve. I want for us to be able to secure some quality used apparatus that we can utilize until the supply chain issues resolve themselves, and then we can offload for another fire department to use. And with that, I will take any questions that we haven't already fielded.
Chief, can I just add something to the lease purchase as well?
Yes.
So, it is difficult with the way we're having to order these, and we've had to shift how we work with the fire department and our replacement and new apparatus. So all of those that he had on there for lease purchase, we would not put them in the 2025 lease purchase because the lease purchase, you have to spend the funds within 18 months. So if we put it in this year's or in 2025's lease purchase, we wouldn't be able to utilize the funding because they wouldn't give us an extension that long. So we're having to work through all of that with the fire department as well. So just to let you know that we'll bring to council when we order those apparatus, but they will not be on lease purchase for a few years or a couple years probably. So it's kind of pre-committing funds, but that's the only way that we can do that right now. I think we've talked about this before. I just wanted to remind everybody where we are with that. And like Chief said, having reserve vehicles is important as well. That's all I got.
Councilmember Waring?
Let me follow up on that. If you were queen for a day, what would be the preferred way to do it?
What do you mean by that?
Financially, I mean, what would be the preferred way to do it?
You mean outright purchase or lease purchase? You
Right.
mean?
Right.
Lease purchase because it's easier on our general fund, right?
Right.
So it's just making it more challenging with the lead times.
Oh, okay.
And I'm hoping that gets better, but we've seen over the last year, it's actually gotten worse. So it's challenging, especially when you're trying to plan for even replacement apparatus. It's just been a little bit more difficult for us to map out.
Chief, did some companies that used to make fire trucks go out of business or something?
Some of the companies have gone out of business, especially due to the pandemic. And we try to standardize the fleet. We try to use one manufacturer. It helps us with parts acquisition and also the skill set of our mechanics. And with ARPA funding, a lot of municipalities across the country front-loaded apparatus orders. So what ended up happening is the apparatus manufacturers that are left, and there's probably 4 main manufacturers for the country, they all were hit with a backlog of orders.
Yeah, Foley, thank you.
Sure.
We have the same issue with the police department to an extent as well. Not as much as lead times, but the cost of those vehicles has gone up exponentially as well. And there's still a delay. It's not like fire, but we're having a problem even with garbage trucks. It's everything that we're trying to order. Fire's the hardest though. I mean, 4 years is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's quite challenging. And, you know, just one other point, trying to line up land acquisition for a new facility and the permitting of the new facility and the groundbreaking, and then the hiring and training of the firefighters and the delivery of the apparatus is a magic trick that I'm still pulling rabbits out of the hat. It's like Thanksgiving dinner ready.
Who doesn't love a challenge?
That's correct. That's what you pay me. But that's the entire presentation. I appreciate everybody's questions and attentiveness and interest in the fire department.
Thank you, Chief. Pretty thorough.
I'm trying to share my screen again. Sorry. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let me scoot down. Okay, so we'll just move right into 2024, our monthly reports for July. Expenditures were under budget in every department, so we're looking okay there. Any questions on that? That's just the graph of the expenditures. Everybody's under target. Police departments exceeded their overtime budget for the year. Environmental services is close to exceeding, so we're having some overtime issues, but we're working with the departments on those. Yeah, our fuel is under target. Today, I guess never mind, I'm sorry. Vehicle repairs, fleet management. We're having an issue with vehicle repairs and for everybody, regular fleet, police fleet, and fire fleet. Some of that is that we're having more accidents, but also because of the cost of the repairs. So we're working with the departments on that as well. Most of them are covered by insurance proceeds. So right now we're just working to see how we can mitigate future costs in those in all of those fleet expenses. Healthcare costs. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And Councilwoman Parker has her hand up too. But just for clarity, this is through July.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to what extent are these expenditures weighted towards the beginning or end of the year? I mean, do you anticipate this being a pretty accurate reflection, or do we have heavier costs coming that will be booked through the end of the year? That would be
definitely timing, and yes, we'll have the summer months tend to have more costs related to them, so you will see that that large under target that we have right now will decrease over the next few months. Yes.
And Councilwoman Parker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Wharton. So, and this kind of goes back to Chief Curia, but as far as the maintenance goes, the fleet maintenance, I know Chief Curia said he was opening, you know, he wanted to create some new positions because we needed some new mechanics and such to fix the, you know, the things that are breaking. But I'm curious, I mean, will that be a competitive, it's kind of a twofold question, will it be a competitive position, you know, as far as you know, what the private market is paying. And then my other question sort of concerning this, Ms. Wharton, is those costs, since we're, what is it? We're exceeding that budget. Yeah, we've spent 100% of that budget. So, and that's all in-house. That's not private maintenance. That's all done in-house, or is that this is a private we're spending?
So we're
Outside of-
70% of fleet managements and 75%. Police is 100%. So most of the police is all in-house. Same with all the fleet is in-house. There are some things that we would have to send out. Some of the bigger equipment, sometimes if it's a larger repair, we might have to send that out. But most of it is our in-house repairs.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for that
unless it's like something, if it's something that our fleet can't necessarily fix or something that they don't have time and we have to get it quickly fix it, then we send it out. But most of the time it's our own fleet repairing. them.
Okay, and is that coming out of a separate line item or this? So if police has to, are they utilizing this amount?
It all comes out of their maintenance line item in their
Okay.
budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that
And
answer your
Chief, I'm
question?
sorry. Yes, so Chief, I don't recall what those positions, what you were paying again. Do you feel that they were market rate, or is this something that we have to look at privatizing, or is it better to have the in-house employees?
So those are new positions and I think Councilmember Parker, so I don't know that they've been necessarily vetted completely yet, but we also have the compensation study coming in as well. So we'll compare what those recommendations are to what we currently anticipate those positions to be. But they would be around the same as the current positions that we have. So whether they're most likely not market rate, right? Because we're government and usually don't compete with the private market very well. If that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And that was sort of what I was leading to, is obviously creating these new positions may need to be something that we discuss after the compensation study, but okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, revenues, we're looking good. The only thing that is under budget right now is our state of South Carolina, which is aid to subdivision and local option sales tax. And I have a little bit of an explanation. That's the graph. But local option sales tax and state's aid to subdivision, they're running way behind on remitting those revenues to us. So it's not that they're necessarily under target. It's a timing issue for us because they were running so far behind in getting us that money. But we did get it in. So we feel like we're good. We're trying to go above target. Just as of July, we had not received those revenues. They seem to be slower and slower with getting us our revenues. Any question on that?
So again, you just simply put, you think that's a timing related issue?
It's definitely a timing issue. I don't know why it took so long for them to send us those funds, but it just was abnormally overdue. And there's usually a lag in those funds anyway, but it was a lot longer than we're used to.
Councilman Ware
I'm sorry, go ahead.
has his hand up, and Councilwoman Parker, you have your hand up too. I'm not sure if that's from the previous question or not, but Councilman Ware.
Sorry, it is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Local option sales tax, can you briefly go over how do they calculate that? How do they know how much Charleston's supposed to get?
So everybody remits their sales tax reports to the state, and that's how it comes back to us.
Okay.
So it's by county,
Okay.
basically. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Same with state aid tax as well, Councilmember Waring.
Amy, can I just follow up on that really quickly?
Sure.
I know it's by county, and is it calculated off of gross collections of sales tax in each county?
I believe so, yes.
And that would account then, I guess, for the disparity of local option sales tax credits in Charleston County, the city that's part of the city is in Charleston County, and then Daniel Island, which is in Berkeley County, right?
Right, so we have two separate counties. And then remember, there's the rollback fund and revenue fund and the two separate pots.
I do.
Yeah.
One more quick question, then I'll mute back up again. Have we been charting to see whether or not the gap between the amount we get back in terms of local option sales tax credits between Charleston County and Berkeley County is closing, so that we don't have that disparity between people who live in the same city but are getting different credits back, lesser credits back on their property tax bills?
I think we did that for you last year, didn't we, Councilmember Seeking? So we can do that.
I thought so.
We did it
I
last year.
think when we went through, yeah, I think when we went through redistricting, we were looking at that. I think we should keep an eye on it, because I think it's going to continue to close.
Mhm.
But at some point, it may be, Mr. Mayor, that we need to talk to our lobbyists and try to figure out, when you've got a city of more than 100,000 people that splits counties, that we should get some way to level out that local option sales tax credit, so it's not a disparate situation.
We talked to North Charleston and Somerville as well, because they also have the same issue. It's just different for them because when they're in other counties, it's not as large as ours is, right? It's not as big of a population that they have in other counties as we do in Berkeley County. So it's definitely something you have to go to the state
And
with.
growing up there, and they're acutely aware of this disparity. So
No, I think it's a good point to talk to our lobbyists about, and certainly they're coming to town in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 weeks. So and we were just, for council members, we're going to be letting you all know, because I think it'd be good, or if you want to get some FaceTime with them as well, both federal and state.
thank you.
Councilman Boyd. Greg, sorry.
That's all right. Since we're on this note, when we talk about that, we should probably talk about the millage adjustment, because Berkeley County reassesses in this calendar year, and I think Charleston County is not going to reassess until next calendar year. And so we're going to, our city citizens in Berkeley County are going to effectively pay a much higher millage in this calendar year than anybody in Charleston County. So just want to keep that top of mind as well. So when we talk about splitting the local option sales tax credit, we need to talk about how we're going to adjust millage in this gap year as well, because Berkeley and Charleston are not on the same calendar in reassessments.
Right. So the millage has to be the same in both counties. So we wait till the Charleston County, because that's our biggest pot, to do the rollback next year when they do the assessment. And then I know it's always a year lag for Berkeley County residents, but in order to keep the millage the same for both counties, it kind of has to work that way. But we can meet with that and talk about it.
It's worth bringing up with Berkeley County, and maybe Boyd or my Councilman Seekings, y'all might know. I mean, I guess, Amy, when you and I met and discussed this, because I caught it as well, Councilman Gregg. When did that timing get off? Was it 5 years ago, or how long ago was that?
It was during the recession. So
10 years ago.
Yeah, at least. Because I think both the counties didn't do reassessment because of the economy, and then they got off years, I think is what happened. So Berkeley County started up before Charleston County did. They just got off schedule.
And do we know where Dorchester is, just out of curiosity? I mean, it does make some sense to try and coordinate when the next, just food for thought. Anyway, we don't need to get too far down a rabbit hole on this, but
Councilman Seekings brought it up about this adjustment, and well, if we're going to adjust one thing, let's adjust it.
So. You've never mentioned this before, Councilman Gray.
Well, I mentioned the sales tax.
No, I know. I'm kidding. Right.
I beat that horse to death every year, but now we're in a.
It makes sense. No, it's legit. It's definitely legit.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, Dorchester County is the same as Berkeley County in reassessment years.
Oh, so maybe it's our friends in Charleston County that are the problem.
Are we good to go on? Okay, enterprise funds, all of them are looking really good except for the ballpark. Ballpark is the ballpark. So we're doing well at all of our special facilities. And then stormwater revenues are above target. Expenditures are under target. So some of that is timing for sure, Mayor, with temporary employees and all that for the summertime to help out with some of the ditches and things like that. So some of that is a timing issue and their professional services contracts as well. Any questions on that? I'm sorry, you're kind of fast.
I got a question.
Sure.
Has there been any discussion about stormwater utility fee rates and potential increases for this upcoming cycle? Considering, you know, how I think we can all agree that that's a very important department that needs more funding to keep people employed and more crews cleaning out ditches and outfalls around the city. That been
Let me answer that. I mean, I think one of the things that is coming out of this water plan and the basin map analysis is kind of zeroing in on what the capital improvement needs are, but also Councilman Appel really focusing on deferred maintenance, which really has become a capital project, because to catch up, it's gonna be more like a capital project. But want to get a sense of exactly what that is. And just so you all are aware, since you brought it up, we are looking at a third party to get a proposal to do an assessment of that, so that we can know a general dollar amount, potentially to have third parties come in and deal with the deferred maintenance as a capital project. And really, one potential source of funding that would be a special assessment for stormwater, because that's what it would be targeting. So again, I just throw that out there, not that I'm necessarily recommending it right now. I don't know the scale of this, but it would be logical, and I think there might be a reception for it, just given where we are right now.
absolutely. That's great to hear.
We have some time on the stormwater budget as well, so.
Councilman Ware?
Yeah, before we leave that, I mean, where are we in this
Election.
collection, the efficiency on the collection? Are we gonna add it to the property tax bill? I mean, where are we?
I don't have an update on that, Amy. Do you? We can check with stormwater on where, I mean, there was the RFP that went out, I know, for the and we funded the implementation of it. I just don't know if it's been executed yet.
So they're very close to having recommendations. Councilmember Gregg and Mayor, I need to talk to you about Berkeley County, if you have a second. But so it looks possibly like that's the way we.
That would be me too, by the way.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Shakings, I forget that.
That's okay.
So all three of you, that would be great.
I'm the lost member up there.
Oh, stop. So I think we'll get recommendations soon on that, Councilmember Waring.
So there's a possibility we can take action on it this year, I mean, for next year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, tourism funds are looking good, above target on all of those. Not significantly, but still above target. So we talked about last year not increasing the way that we have been seeing the revenues increase, because I think it just kind of bounced back and they're leveling off now. So I think we are smart in that.
Just a real quick question here. There have been some sort of grumblings statewide about hospitality fee remittances sort of starting to lag a little bit, as they do sometimes when the economy suffers, specifically in that sector. Are we seeing any of that with our local F&B scene. It sounds like that's not the case based on what you just said, but I just wanted to maybe zero in on that to get some more intel.
We're not really seeing it lag. If you've noticed over the last couple of years, Councilmember Rappel, that we are significantly over target with our numbers for hospitality. They're not significant. So it's hard to kind of gauge that right now with some of the other economic indicators. It could possibly be that, but we're not seeing that right now necessarily.
Good. It's great news. Thank you.
A-tax, that's
Maybe.
another story, but hospitality, I think we're okay. If you remember too, during the pandemic, hospitality stayed way strong during the pandemic, whereas, you know, A-tax took a hit, but so we'll see what happens. Councilmember Waring?
Yeah, my understanding that the attendance is down on a number of venues, you know, like some of the plantations, Magnolia and Drayton. Aquarium, to name a few. I think the attendance is down at the Gibbs too. So I don't know if that's a little indicator, maybe a little indicator after Debbie, you know. People think we still repairing from a hurricane, which we're really not.
Any other questions on that? Usually we get reports from the CVB too, which helps us analyze that. So we'll get back to you once we get that report from the CVB. Usually they set off alarm bells to us if they're seeing anything of concern. So where we are with the budget right now, we're finishing analyzing department requests. We have many meetings planned September and October to go over all the other departments' budgets. The section chiefs will be presenting the department's budgets for each of their sections, and that will be on September 20th, 25th, and the 4th. We're still scheduling and figuring out which ones we're working with those section chiefs to see which dates work best for them. So I'll let you know as soon as we get that worked out. Any questions on that? And then in October, we'll go over lease purchase, all effective life increases, revenue assumptions, all of our recommendations, the tourism budget, capital improvement plan, and then the final budget. And that's all I had, unless anybody has any other questions. No.
I mean, this is something we can talk about offline, but if you'd like, or we can talk about it online. This agreement that we have with where we reimburse St. Andrews PSD for a number of years after annexation, obviously that dings out general fund. I know we put a letter in. I don't know if Ms. Copeland's on the line. I know we gave notice on not renewing that agreement. I mean, Mr. Mayor, you know where we are on that?
Let me get you an update on that. You and I have discussed it, and I don't have one, but I will get one.
Okay, that's good, because I think that's more revenue, obviously, that stays in the general fund for some of these obligations we'll have. But anyway, we'll talk. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I think we're good here. I do think, you know, when we start looking at these budgets, Amy, you and I can discuss this in a little bit more detail offline, but you know, when we're looking at these requests as these sections and departments come in, I think it'll be good for perspective for everybody to get a handle on, you know, where we think we might be for revenues for 25 and what we might be able to work with, right? I mean, if fire department's asking for X and police is asking for Y, and we kind of need to know an aggregate amount of what we have to work with so we can make informed decisions, because there's going to be obviously some picking and choosing that needs to go on, and understanding again, general terms, what we potentially have to work with is going to be important. So we can make the right call.
We got Berkeley County's assessment, so we're working on Berkeley County property tax projections. We just got Charleston County assessment, working with the county with some questions that we had on some differences we saw from last year for some of our areas in the city that we're working with them on to get better clarity. So we'll have property taxes. The other issue is with the state being so late in getting us revenues, we don't have enough months to really project. So it's challenging us a little bit in that respect. But since we just got the revenues that we received a little bit ago, we should get a better handle on it. So we're working on all those right now.
Sure, fair
The
enough.
biggest thing is property taxes, and we never get that from the county until the beginning of September every year. So we can't really work on that until we have those numbers.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Mayor, can we get the departments to total? I mean, when the fire department came to me, I'm on my little calculator over here trying to.
I
you
think
ran out of zeros?
you, Councilmember Waring. I think there's a total on the document that I sent you. It's
Okay, all right.
yeah.
There's a summary.
That would be hard to calculate that.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
Mayor and Councilmember Greg and Councilmember Sigis, could you stay on for just 1 second?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, actually, yeah, I guess that's fine.
Or do you want to go to a separate Teams meeting or what?
As long as we stop recording.
Magic.
There we go. I mean, I don't care who stays on. This isn't top secret or anything.